All right, so we've got a nice big 3-stage red pearl we're gonna be shooting in this video. We're gonna go over the techniques that I do to get the nicest, cleanest finish, especially when you're doing a 3-stage, because you're inside that booth a lot longer than you would be with your normal paint job. Even though we do use the Glazerite and it's only 1.5 coats, you still have to apply that second coat of the mid. So this is the job here. We did prime it in the booth, and then I pulled it back outside so that we could get it prepped out. So this one was hit with a bunch of rock chips. So we sanded it down. We've got the front bumper, 2 mirror caps, the hood, and basically almost the whole vehicle on this one. So we're gonna get this one prepped out in this video. I'll show you guys how we mask it up to keep the jams as clean as possible. We are gonna be doing this one all together. This is it. I'll show you the hood. We did prime the whole hood out. This one here had a lot of rock chips, so we went ahead and primed out the whole hood as well as the mirror caps, and then we've got the front bumper over here. So the code is Y2E. Let's get this thing prepped out and in the booth, and I'll show you guys how we do it. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is get the bumper prepped out as well as the hood and the mirror caps, because we're gonna get these in there first. That way they are in front of the vehicle, and then we'll drive the vehicle in. We'll hopefully have enough room, being this is the extra long booth. You guys know that we used to have the double wide, which is over here now, but we are gonna be using this one here. It is extra long, so I'm hoping to get the hood in there, the bumper in there, as well as the mirror caps in front. Then we'll drive the vehicle in and get it all ready to go. So first thing we're gonna do is leave it masked up when we block our primer down. You guys see that we have the hood off. I don't wanna get all the dust inside the area, and I want to keep as much of it out of the cracks when I'm doing my blocking and sanding. So if you know anything about prepping out a vehicle, the most dust is going to come from your primer. You really don't get as much dust from the clear coat like you do the primer, so we leave it bagged up. We keep our seams as tight as possible. Once we get the primer done, then we will focus on doing the areas around the primer. So let's go ahead and get this thing prepped out. We'll start out on the bumper and the hood, and then we'll get on the body. All right, we've got the bumper fully prepped out. We hit it with 400 DA. We did have a guide coat on it, and then we went around it with our red scuff pad. So for me, the worst part of this job is prepping out these bumper covers, especially when they're repaired and they are primed, because a lot of times the body men will sand them down, they'll get all haired up. Then you have to prime them, and you got to put a lot of primer on to cover up the hairs, and then it turns into a big headache, especially with sanding down in all the crevices that they have on them. It can really nick up your fingers. So if you guys are in the business, let me know what is your most undesirable part of the paint and the prep work when you're doing these vehicles. We're going to go ahead now and get the hood prepped out. All right, so being that this job was mainly chips, we didn't do a lot of blocking on the bumper as well as the hood, because most of this hood was stripped down, so we really didn't have to worry about blocking out anything to make it straight. We did guide coat it, but I like to use the guide coat mainly for letting me see imperfections in the primer, but the best thing that I like it for is that it helps you to know when you're sanded, and you can get through that job quicker. You're not gonna go over it multiple times when it's already sanded, because once the black is gone, you know that that is fully sanded. So we're gonna go ahead now and block out the primer on the sides of the vehicle. Then we'll get the other areas around the primer all ready as well. All right, so we blocked the primer and then we unbagged it because we got most of the dust off of the vehicle. What I want to do now is get it cleaned. We're going to hit it with our waterborne cleaner. This is the 700 from Glazerite with a red Scotch-Brite. We'll go around all our edges at the same time that we're going to be cleaning the vehicle. That way we kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So let's go ahead and hit that. Then we're going to refine our primer with the DA. You guys seen that we pulled our plastic off. Now we're going to be using the vacuum, because when we block down the primer with this job, we use the soft sponge block because it has a lot of round areas, and if you use a rigid block, you will get lines, and then you'll have to refine them and get them out with the DA. I like to use sometimes those rubber blocks on jobs like this because we're not really blocking body work, we're just sanding out chips and trying to blend them back in from the feather edge. So let's go ahead and hit it now with our waterborne. All right, so we blocked our primer areas with 320, then we refined them with 400 on the DA, and then we hit our areas around the primer with 600, and then towards the back where we might be blending it because of the bumper, we did it with 800 as well as up here. So we are doing the post, if you guys are curious why we're doing the quarter panels, because there's no way for it to stop, and we have to go ahead and get the full panel. So this here, we're doing the back door because of the area here. It's very close to the rear. And then as well on the other side, we had a little bit of area that was burnt right there. And then we had a little repair up top. So we're taking the whole quarter panel and all the way down this side as well. So you guys seen, we opened it up. We blew out inside the jams. We took a microfiber towel, cleaned inside there as well, and blew. That way you get a nice clean jam when you're taping up your jobs. A lot of guys will have trouble. They're fighting their tape because they didn't clean out the jam. Get a little bit of Prepsol or lacquer thinner on your rag and wipe around the area where you're gonna tape after you blow it off, and you're gonna have a better chance of that tape sticking. So we've got it all fully prepped out. I'm gonna wipe it down one more time out here with a microfiber towel before we get it in the booth, and then we'll start wrapping it up. And with this here, we're using the Prepsol outside. That way, once we get inside the booth, we will hit it with our waterborne cleaner for the final prep. So go ahead and hit your windows while you're at it because they have dirt on them from sanding as well. So one more thing. All right, so now we're gonna start the masking process, and I always start in the back of the vehicle and work my way towards the front. If you've ever masked up a job and started in the front and started closing things up, you'll see that you'll start to interfere with the panel behind you. So I've always had the best luck starting in the back, working your way towards the front. Keep a towel with you, wipe out your jams again before you apply your tape. That way you're gonna get an even cleaner job. So you wanna try to do as much back masking as you can, and I'll show you what that is once we get the tailgate opened up. But when you're doing your jams here, you're gonna have to do things a little differently, especially once we get into this section of the quarter panel. So when we get over there, we'll show you that, but we'll start in the back and I'll show you what the back masking process looks like. All right, so we're gonna wipe it out one more time. That way we can get any loose debris that might be in there out of the way. So once you've wiped it, take your tape. We're using 1.5 inch. We don't use the 2-inch, but a lot of times if you guys are at home, you're gonna get 2-inch tape because that's what's more accessible out there to you guys. So take your tape and stick it right to the body of the vehicle. That way, once you close this, you're gonna be able to pull it back and mask it the other way and be able to have this sealed up, because if this is sealed, you're gonna have less chance of dirt blowing out from the jams. That's where a lot of the dirt is on vehicles. Yes, you can wash all that down, but for me in this type of production setting, it doesn't make that much of a difference, especially when you have a nice spray booth. So we'll run our tape along here, we'll close it up, and then we'll back tape to it and pull it, but this will be sealed up and it won't allow any dirt to blow out of the jam. On this side, wipe it out and then back mask it. So now you have this flap hanging over, which you're gonna go ahead and take your tape, stick it right to it, and then it's gonna pull back this way, and it's gonna give you a nice jam once you unmask this, because now not only is it gonna give you a nice jam, but you're also gonna have no dirt blowing out of the cracks. So that's the key to getting a clean job, is to getting the vehicle sealed up as tight as possible and then doing a thorough cleaning on it once everything is masked up. So we start here and we'll work our way towards the front of the vehicle. Right, so when I'm doing my taping, I like to run it along the factory seams. That way, when you do take it and unmask it, you're not gonna have tape lines all over the place. So think about what is gonna be the most undetectable repair whenever you're doing these jobs and how to mask it. So if you see a line that you can run along, always do that, because that's gonna give you the nicest job. I know it's not something anybody will see, but I know when I'm working on cars and I see people doing shortcuts on taping, a lot of times you think that it's not that good of a job. So if you can run it like this here along the seam, go ahead and do that. So we ran it along the bottom of the quarter panel, and we're gonna back mask the wheelhouses as well as the bottom of the doors. That way, once we pull the plastic over the vehicle, it's gonna stick to it and seal it up tight. So same thing here with your gas hole. We popped out the gas door opening and the inside of that, and we're gonna back mask it around the edge. That way it's sealed up completely. We'll pull this out of the way, and then we'll just run our tape right around. That way it's sealed up tight. One of the parts to getting a clean paint job is sealing up the vehicle the best you can, and then cleaning it and blowing it. That way everything that is gonna come out is gonna come out before you start the painting process. So so now we're gonna be focusing on the jambs for the back doors. While you're in here, go ahead and make sure you figure out what you wanna do as far as the top. For me, we're gonna back mask this. On this here, we're gonna run our tape, and I'll show you guys what we do once we get it fully masked inside here, how to get a nice transition. All right, we've got our jamb masked. You only have to go in as far as the weather strip from the door, because that will seal it up once it's closed. So if you get the edge of the door sealed up to the weather strip, and in here as far as the weather strip goes, you know you're gonna be good. So we've got it covered up, and now we're gonna go ahead and do what we do to get the nice transition in your jamb from the outside to the inside, and that is gonna be using regular tape. And we're gonna do our full tape trick that I've showed you guys before. If you're new to the channel, I don't use a machine, I just use my leg. And I'll just put my leg up on something, and then I can take my tape and pull it along my knee, and that's gonna give you the same look and the same transition tape that you see a lot of guys doing with those different type of machines. So to me, it's just easier. I don't have to have that machine on me, and I've been doing it that way for a long time. So you'll take your tape now, and being that it's folded over, you're gonna be able to get a nice transition, because once that tape is laid down in here, you're not gonna have a hard edge, and it's gonna allow it to just flutter in and give you a nice even transition. So this is the best way that I've been able to do it now for the years that I've been doing it, and I'll show you guys how it looks close up. So you've got your tape run right up to the edge, but being that it's folded over, it's not sticking. It's actually moving a little bit. So as that paint is blowing in, it's not gonna hit an edge and leave you a line. It's just gonna come in here and give you a nice soft transition. So we'll finish up this side of the vehicle, and I'll show you guys some more of the highlights on what we have to do to make sure we can get a nice outcome. And on the door on the inside, we run it right up to the factory seam sealer line. That way this does not get any overspray. And then being down here isn't gonna be seen, we back mask it, and that's gonna seal up to this side of the wheelhouse. That way the bag is gonna cover it up and seal it up tight. Same thing on the bottom of the doors. Back mask it. That way once you pull your plastic over, you're gonna cut it out, and it's gonna seal up the bottom, and it's gonna actually keep stuff from blowing underneath the car as well, because the bag will be over the vehicle. So now this door can be closed, and we can move on to the front door. All right, so on this part of the car, you've got a little edge that is on the inside of the jamb. Don't tape to that, scuff it with a gray scuff pad like we did, and then back mask it. And we will run a little bit of tape here once we close the door up. We've got that sealed up now. We've got it masked all the way around the bottom. We're gonna run our tape now on the inside and back mask it up this way. That way this door is completely sealed up tight. Same thing on the front edge of the door. We're gonna mask it off up to the weather strip, because once it gets to this, it's sealed up. That's why they have these on the vehicle, to keep out the water and make this airtight. That's the same thing it's gonna do for us. Once we mask from here to there, we know that this isn't gonna get any overspray because this jamb is sealed up tight around the door. So you don't have to go all the way in. Just figure out where your weather strip stops and make sure you go up to that. That way you do not have any chance of overspray. So for the front of the door and between the fender edge, we're gonna try to stick some foam in there. That way we can keep out as much overspray as possible. And I don't use foam much, but I do use it for certain things like this, just to keep some of the overspray out of certain areas that I don't like. So sometimes you gotta use a knife just to get it back inside there, because when you close the door, sometimes it wants to come out the other way. Make sure you get it in far enough, because you don't want this gluing to the front edge of the door and actually causing you more trouble than it's worth. So think of all these things, try to do the best you can. It's gonna help you out later. If you do get dirt, you know you can always buff it out, but for us production painters, we wanna get them as clean as possible, because sometimes, and most of the times, we don't get paid to buff the vehicle. So let's get these things as clean as possible. We'll take our tape, we'll stick it to this, and we'll pull it down, and that's gonna seal it up, and that's gonna give you a nice transition. If you do get a little bit of buildup on this, you could always take some compound after it's done and dry and buff that line away, and you will get a nice jam line. So depending on how you apply your paint, when you're painting, is gonna determine how that's gonna look. So don't pound your clear up into the cracks. Put it on, give your nice normal coats, but don't give excess amount areas that you know you're gonna have tape right up to the car. We get clean jobs. We're not gonna have to buff much on this vehicle, hopefully. So that's gonna eliminate that process of taking away materials. So if you take away materials, that means that you have less protection on the vehicle. So for you guys at the house that you know you're gonna have to be buffing these cars out because you're gonna get dirty jobs, you might wanna paint things to where you do not have any lines. That way you can really put on a lot of clear. For us guys in the production world and having good spray booths, we don't have to do that, because we have the environment to get the cleanest job to where we don't have to buff and take away any of the clear coat, which is gonna let that job last longer because it has the proper amount of paint on it. So for the fender, we're gonna back mask it. We're gonna run around the whole edge of it. We're gonna seal up the holes as best we can. In the quarter panel, we couldn't do that because there's no access. I'm not gonna worry about it too much. We're gonna blow it out the best we can. I'd rather have that than masking this off and having tape lines all around it. So blow these off the best you can. But when you have access to getting to the back side of the holes, you wanna tape them up. We can pull the wheelhouse down and then we could back mask it. So, and that will be the whole side of the vehicle. We'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm not gonna show you that, but that is the steps for masking. As far as these here, we're gonna run the foam inside the holes, and I'll show you guys that. We'll ball them up, we'll stick them in here, and that's gonna help us as well. So let's finish masking up the bottom of this fender. I'll show you guys the foam, and then I'm gonna get this thing bagged up and we'll start the painting process. Take your foam, just roll it up the size of the actual hole, and then when you stick it in here, it's gonna absorb to it and expand and hold in place. So just a little extra step, easy, quick, but it will help you out from blowing overspray in, and as well as having the overspray blow out. So now we've got the bag over the vehicle. You're gonna run your razor blade along all your tape lines and then pull out the inside of the body of the vehicle and then mask it back off and seal it up. So this to me is the best way of doing it. This is a treated plastic which will allow the overspray to stick to it. So don't just go to Home Depot or Lowe's and get a normal plastic, especially when you're doing the solvent, because it dries fast. You'll get it on there, and then by the time you get to your clear coat, you could have that color blow off of that and get into your job. So there's a lot involved in some of these products that we're using to eliminate those type of problems. I've seen a lot of guys through the years screw up jobs using the wrong paper, having way too much lint on it, getting into the paint, as well as the plastic blowing off the paint into the job once you get into that heavy pressure from the clear coat. So use the proper stuff, to make sure you're gonna get the outcome you want. Yes, it is more money, but it's gonna save you a lot of problems in the long run, and you're gonna get a nicer job. So we'll finish cutting it out. We'll seal up all around our tape with another layer of tape. That way we're sealed up tight and we'll be able to clean the job. Now we'll hit it with our waterborne cleaner with the microfiber towel, blow and tack it, and we can start the process of the painting. So when you're blowing them off, make sure you blow off from the top to the bottom. There will be dust on the plastic because you slid it over the vehicle, and if you don't blow that off now, it could land in your paint job later. So turn your pressure up on your blowgun, blow it up, turn the booth on, get everything blowing. If you've got the fans in your booth, turn them on as well, because you're gonna use those, and if there's something on them, you wanna get it off of them now before you start painting. So let's go ahead and get it wiped down. We've got it all tacked off, and this here color, after we shot it with the camera, recommends the L03 sealer. So that is a medium to light gray sealer, which is going to give that color that vivid look, because you're going to pick up that bottom color through the actual red that goes onto this vehicle. So you got to make sure that when you're doing these reds and some of the blues, and there is some other colors as well, that you use the right gray or the right sealer that is recommended from the camera or whatever paint line that you're using. That can change the color drastically. So we've got our L03 mixed up. We're gonna go ahead and get it sealed up, and then we're gonna get our color on this one and get it all finished up. All right, so we've got the sealer on. We're gonna let that tack up, and then we're gonna go in there and tack it. I've told you guys before, with the glazer or any paint that you do, make sure you get your sealer clean. That way, once you go in there with your base coat, you're not gonna do any more tacking or sanding or checking out of anything. So you wanna get that sealer nice and clean. Go in there, hit it with your base coat, and then you're gonna have a nice clean surface for your clear. So we're gonna go in there in about 5 minutes, tack it all off again, and then apply our base. All right, so we'll go ahead and let that ground coat dry up, and then we'll go ahead and hit it with the mid coat. So it'll take about 5 minutes with those blowers. You guys see it's blowing on the base, which is letting that moisture and water come out of that base coat and give it a nice dry foundation for the next coat, which is kind of like a candy, but it is not because it is in the base coat. So to me, a true candy is only done in clear. That's gonna give you the mills, and that's gonna give you that vivid look that you get from them true candy colors. But with these base coats, you get a nice vivid look, but you don't have that depth because everything is sucked down and it's not as thick as a true candy. So let's let it dry, let's hit it with our mid, and then we'll clear it. All right, so that is the mid. You guys seen that we walked the whole length of the vehicle. That is gonna give us the best orientation for that candy. If you stop and you do panel by panel, you can have chances of having dark spots in between your panels. So I like to walk it out just like an old school candy. So let's let this thing get all dried up, and then we're gonna go in there and hit it with our 460 Glazerite. All right, so that was a big job. And before I show it to you guys, I wanna show it to you after it fully bakes. That way you could see the true gloss of this clear. Real quick, I'm gonna run down the street, get something to eat. And right now I want you guys to check out this video of that Viafo camera for the inside of the vehicle. I'm telling you guys, it is awesome to have. I ran into a couple of problems already on the road, and that Viafo helped me out. So watch this, and then we'll be back and I'll show you guys the job all finished up. All right, so we've really been enjoying this new Viafo camera. The way that this thing works, even on an impact, it will record a 1 minute video 2 seconds after the impact. So that is really key to getting the footage from the collision. And when you get into the vehicle, it has fast startup. So it also has very low power consumption, this camera. So you're not gonna have to worry about it draining your battery or doing any harm to any of that stuff, especially with the people out there with the EV vehicles. Also, one nice feature is it has a fisheye lens, which not only captures inside the vehicle, but you can see on both sides of the vehicle, and that really helps out. If someone was to come up and hit you on either side, you're gonna have the footage for it.
Recording. 3 channels started.
All right, so we're doing another review on the Viafo A329S 4K camera. This is a 3-camera setup that goes inside the vehicle cabin as well as facing forward towards the front. and then does the back of the vehicle as well. So this is a really nice top quality camera. They are pioneers in the dash cam imaging since 2010. And this one does do 4K, HDR, Wi-Fi 6, and a whole variety of other things. So one thing cool that I like about this one the most is, and it lets you know how many miles per hour you're going. So that is a cool feature. That way, if you did get into any type of trouble, you could have not only the video footage, but you could have the mile per hour, the date, the time, and all that stuff that goes along with it. So this has been cool having it inside the vehicle, because it not only does regular video in the daytime, but it also does at night. Make sure you guys check out this cool camera from Viafo. I highly recommend it, not only for safety, but to have some fun with. All right, let's go check it out. All right, so that was definitely a big job. There was a lot of prep work and a lot of painting in that one. And the biggest thing is getting that thing nice and even and as clean as possible. So we took all the precautions that I know of to try to get the cleanest job, and you can see that we really got a nice job. There may be 1 or 2 pieces of dirt in it. I'll look over in the morning. If there is something that needs to be polished out, I'll go ahead and hit it, but it really came out nice and clean. And you see that the gloss level on that is really nice because we let it dry thoroughly. We've got the fans getting all of that moisture out of that base coat, which is giving us a dry foundation to lay your clear on, and that is key with this water base. So if you guys look in the back, you see we got the Kandyman sign now lit up, we've got electric to it, and we're ready to roll. So I hope you guys got some tips, tricks, and some techniques out of this video to get yourself nicer, cleaner work, whether you're doing it at home or in the body shop. I think you guys may have gotten something out of it. If you did, give this video a thumbs up, and we'll see you guys on the next one.